But now there's this unprecedented advisory for pregnant women not to avoid the Wynwood district, and that's rocking the community. We already have reports of small businesses who have closed, small businesses that have decided, obviously because of the outdoor cafes, to close until further notice, events that have been canceled, and so we're deeply concerned about that. Because it reminds us that Zika is not just a public health emergency, it's also an economic one. We're very concerned about the impact this has ultimately on Florida's tourism. I may be the only member of Congress that has voted in favor of every single Zika funding proposal. Because for me, this is not about politics. It really has never been. It has always been about public safety, and in particular the community that I live in. When I'm talking about Zika to you today, I'm not talking about something that's happening halfway around the world. I'm talking about something that's happening where we live, where places where my family goes, and where people that I love work, and where people that I love visit as well. I'm talking about this community and ultimately about the state and the impact it's going to have on it. My message today is, at this point, the time for this political gamesmanship has to end. It's over. We need to fund this as quickly as possible. And I hope that both parties will put this aside. I hope my colleagues around the country don't continue to believe that this is not their issue, that this is something that's happening somewhere else far away. Because just as this has happened in Miami-Dade County over this week, I believe it won't be long before other jurisdictions, other states, and other communities in the state and in this country will face the same situation. Adding to that, I would say it's inexcusable that the President of the United States and this administration is sitting on over $300 million that were repurposed from Ebola to Zika that remain unspent. By their own admission, at least $175 million of federal funds are immediately available to be spent. And I do not understand why that money isn't being spent right now. Now, I don't like to ascribe motives, but in this case, I have to start wondering whether they're holding back on spending that federal money because they like making this a political issue that they can attack Republicans on. Well, two things need to happen. Number one, the President needs to fully utilize the over $300 million that he has available to him to spend right now. This was money that had been authorized by Congress for Ebola. This was money that was repurposed for Zika. And this is money that he's sitting on and not spending, and it's inexcusable. And the second thing that needs to happen is the Congress needs to return to Washington as soon as possible and authorize at least $1.1 billion of additional spending to get ahead of this threat for both Florida and the country. And as far as the threat is concerned, I've been very clear. This is not just a public health threat, which is very serious. It's also an economic threat, particularly to Florida tourism and small businesses. As I've warned about since March, as I've talked about consistently, this is something we have to get ahead of, and we have to give people confidence that their government leaders know what they're doing and are doing something about it. And when they read in the newspaper that every day a couple new cases are being found and Congress has not acted and the President has not acted with the funding, they get concerned. So I think this can be controlled. There's a way to control this and ultimately to eradicate it with a vaccine, but we have to act, and it's been too slow up to now.